Welcome back to True Crime Pulse. Today, we take you to Massachusetts, where a horrific crime took place. On a quiet afternoon in Blackstone, Massachusetts, the seemingly mundane stillness of the town was shattered by a horrifying discovery. It all began when a neighbor's 10-year-old son, playing innocently at Erika Murray's house, stumbled upon something that would change the lives of many. While exploring the cluttered home, the boy came across a crying baby, its wails echoing through the otherwise silent house. Confused and frightened, he quickly called his mother, Betsy Brown, in a panic, unable to figure out how to help. Alarmed by her son's distress, Betsy rushed over, thinking it would be a simple case of a child needing attention. However, as soon as Betsy stepped through the front door, she realized the situation was far worse than she could have imagined. The smell was the first thing to hit her, a rancid mix of decay, unwashed bodies, and garbage. Her stomach churned, but she pressed on, only to be greeted by a scene of utter chaos. Trash was piled high in every corner, swarming with flies and other insects. The walls were smeared with filth, and the air felt heavy with neglect and despair. In one of the back rooms, Betsy discovered the source of the cries. Two little girls sat on the floor, their clothes filthy and tattered, their small faces streaked with tears. One of them was just a baby, her fragile frame trembling as she sobbed. The older girl held her sibling close as if trying to shield her from the horrors of their environment. Betsy's heart sank. She wanted to comfort them, but the overwhelming state of the house left her frozen in shock. As Betsy moved through the house, trying to comprehend the enormity of what she was seeing, she couldn't shake the sense that there was more to uncover. This house wasn't just dirty. It held a darkness that went far beyond neglect. What she didn't know was that her horrifying discovery was only the tip of the iceberg. Hidden within the walls of this seemingly ordinary home were secrets so sinister and tragic that they would soon rock the entire neighborhood to its core, exposing a shocking reality about what had been happening behind closed doors for years. Erika Murray was born in 1983 in the United States, the third child of Kevin and Sharon Murray. The family resided in a rural home in southern Worcester County, Massachusetts, the same house where Kevin had spent his childhood. Kevin, an auto mechanic, was known for his skill in handling household repairs, while Sharon, a devoted homemaker, poured her creativity into crafting. The Murrays were well regarded in their community for their cheerful and sociable demeanor, often hosting lively barbecues that brought neighbors together. As a child, Erika was described as charming, happy, and beautiful. She shared a close bond with her two older siblings, who often included her in games like baseball and hide-and-seek. During her teenage years in the late 1990s, Erika became increasingly focused on her appearance, taking care to keep her hair perfectly styled and her nails meticulously groomed. Known for her responsible and goal-oriented nature, she stood out as a young woman with bright prospects. Before graduating high school, Erika took a job at a fast food restaurant where she met Raymond Rivera, a man 7 years her senior. Little is known about Raymond beyond his relationship with Erika and the fact that he had a sister named Christine. The two quickly became friends, and their connection blossomed into a romantic relationship. Initially, their bond appeared loving and supportive, but over time, it evolved into a dynamic marked by control and possessiveness. In 2001, at just 18 years old, Erika discovered she was pregnant. The news plunged her into a personal crisis as she dreaded the thought of attending her high school graduation visibly pregnant. Encouraged by a close friend, she chose not to miss the milestone. Shortly after graduating on July 17, 2001, Erika gave birth to her first child, a daughter named Kayla. The young family, Erika, Raymond, and their baby, moved in with Erika's parents to make ends meet. By 2003, Erika was pregnant again, and the growing family quickly outgrew the space in her parents' home. Between 2003 and 2004, they relocated to Raymond's sister Christine's house in Blackstone, Massachusetts, where Erika gave birth to her second child, Nicola. Outwardly, their lives seemed picture-perfect. Erika often shared joyful moments on social media, posting birthday celebrations and updates about cooking for her children. The kids attended school and appeared well-adjusted, presenting the image of a happy, thriving family. However, beneath this carefully curated facade, their household was spiraling into chaos. Over time, their home became cluttered and unsanitary, yet the disarray went unnoticed by their community. Despite the growing disorder, the children continued to attend school, and their appearance raised no alarms. Erika maintained an active online presence, sharing updates about mundane activities like washing dishes and preparing meals. Many of her followers admired the seemingly idyllic family life she portrayed. In reality, Erika's life was unraveling. She worked as a sales associate at a craft store in Whiteville, but her once polished demeanor began to fade. Friends and family noted stark changes in her behavior and appearance. Once elegant and confident, Erika started wearing baggy clothes, looking increasingly disheveled, and rarely leaving the house. As she withdrew into isolation, her family assumed she was embarrassed by the state of her home. What they didn't realize was that the truth was far darker than anyone could have imagined. The horrifying truth about Erika Murray's life was uncovered on what began as an ordinary afternoon, thanks to her neighbor, Betsy Brown. Betsy's 10-year-old son had gone over to play with Erika's son, but soon called his mother, distraught and pleading for help to calm a crying baby. Startled, as she had no idea there was an infant in Erika's home, Betsy decided to investigate. The moment she stepped inside, she was struck by a nauseating stench. What she saw next was nothing short of shocking. The house was in an extreme state of filth and decay, a chaotic and decaying mess. Windows were covered in blankets, casting the interior into an eerie darkness. Trash piled high in every corner, while rats and insects roamed freely. Maggots crawled in plain sight. The floors were strewn with clothes and human waste. Following her son's cries, Betsy ventured further into the house, expecting to find a single baby. Instead, she uncovered a devastating reality. 2 young girls, one an infant around 5 months old, and the other a toddler of about 3 years. Betsy was stunned. She had always believed Erika only had 2 children, a 13-year-old daughter and a 10-year-old son. The 2 younger girls lay in separate beds, crying and violently rocking themselves. Their frail bodies were coated in filth and maggots, clear signs of severe neglect. Shaken to her core, Betsy immediately called emergency services, describing the unimaginable state of the home. Human waste was smeared on the walls, and baby handprints were visible in the grime. Dirty diapers and maggot-infested bottles littered the floor. When police arrived at the Blackstone, Massachusetts home, the scene was devastating. The children had been living in squalor without proper hygiene, nutrition, or medical care. This was not the first time the home had drawn attention from authorities. In 2007, Massachusetts Child Protection Services investigated reports of unsanitary conditions but found no sufficient evidence of neglect. No action was taken, allowing years of unchecked deterioration. This time, authorities acted decisively. All 4 children, Erika's 13-year-old daughter, her 10-year-old son, and the 2 young girls, were placed into state custody. Medical evaluations revealed the extent of their suffering. The 3-year-old girl was so malnourished that she lacked the muscle strength to sit unassisted and was highly sensitive to light. The infant had a flattened head from being left lying down for extended periods. Neither younger girl had birth records, and both were critically underweight, clear evidence of prolonged neglect. The older children's conditions were equally alarming. Both had severe ear infestations with maggots and such extreme earwax buildup that their eardrums were obscured. The discoveries painted a horrifying picture of prolonged neglect, secrecy, and unimaginable tragedy. When authorities informed Erika Murray of her children's removal and the shocking conditions they had been subjected to, her response was chilling. Erika showed little emotion, calmly agreeing that the children should not remain in such an environment. However, she expressed no visible concern for their well-being, and her detached demeanor left authorities unsettled. What disturbed them further was her fixation on the whereabouts of her pet cat, a reaction that raised serious doubts about her mental state and capacity for empathy. Days later, with a search warrant, police conducted a deeper examination of Erika's home. What they uncovered defied belief. Hidden in 2 separate closets were the remains of 3 infants, each in an advanced state of decomposition. One of the infants had been wrapped in adult sweatpants, the umbilical cord and placenta still attached, a grim sign that the child had likely been abandoned shortly after birth. The conditions of the remains suggested they had been concealed for an extended period, perhaps weeks, months, or even years. The findings sent shockwaves through the community and deepened the sense of horror surrounding the case. The medical examiner's initial analysis suggested that at least one of the infants may have been born alive, though the level of decomposition made definitive conclusions difficult. Forensic experts could not determine the exact causes of death, but the evidence pointed to a pattern of neglect and abandonment that spanned years. When confronted with the remains, Erika initially denied having given birth to other children, insisting that the allegations were false. However, under further questioning, she admitted to one of the births, claiming the baby had been stillborn. According to her account, she panicked when she realized the child wasn't breathing and, overwhelmed by fear and uncertainty, placed the lifeless body in a closet. As detectives pressed her further, informing her of the discovery of 2 additional sets of remains, Erika's story began to unravel. She eventually confessed that one of the infants, a baby girl, had lived for about a week before dying. Erika described finding the baby unresponsive, her skin turning blue. When asked why she hadn't called for emergency help or attempted to save the child, Erika said she had been paralyzed by fear and unsure of what to do. During the investigation, Erika revealed harrowing details of how she had secretly delivered the babies in her bathtub while her family slept. She claimed she kept the pregnancies and births hidden from everyone, including her partner Raymond, because she feared he would leave her if he discovered the truth. This fear, she said, drove her to act in secrecy, compounding the tragedy of her choices. The case took an even darker turn when DNA analysis confirmed that all 7 children, including the 3 deceased infants, were Erika and Raymond's biological offspring. The revelation implicated both parents, who were subsequently arrested and charged. Erika's actions and her inability or unwillingness to seek help ignited widespread outrage and scrutiny. The story became a stark symbol of systemic failures and the devastating consequences of unchecked neglect, leaving a community grappling with grief and disbelief. Raymond, visibly shaken and distraught, adamantly denied any knowledge of the 2 young girls being his daughters or the existence of the 3 deceased infants hidden within their home. He claimed he had never been informed by Erika about any of these grave matters. However, his story failed to convince the authorities, who found it hard to believe that Raymond, who shared a bedroom with Erika, could have remained unaware of her pregnancies. The police also questioned how Raymond could not have noticed the presence of 2 small children in his home, only for Erika to supposedly reveal their existence after the fact. Despite their suspicions and doubts, the investigators were unable to gather enough evidence to conclusively prove that Raymond knew the full extent of the situation. As a result, he was initially charged with drug-related offenses after a marijuana-growing operation was discovered in the basement of the house. Erika, on the other hand, faced a far more extensive list of charges, including second-degree murder, concealing a death, assault, and battery causing significant injury to a child, reckless endangerment of a child, and 2 counts of animal cruelty related to a dog and a cat that had been removed from the property. The horrific details surrounding what had come to be known as the House of Horrors began to spread, with neighbors and acquaintances offering their accounts of what they had observed over the years. One neighbor recalled noticing a strong, foul odor emanating from the house, but at the time chose to ignore it. Another neighbor regretted not reporting having seen a dog tied up in the yard with a leash so short that the animal couldn't move. A postal worker, who had regularly delivered mail to the Murray household, remarked that the house always appeared unkempt, with the children often seen eating breakfast in the garage rather than inside the home. A former childhood acquaintance of Erika's expressed disbelief upon hearing about the situation, stating that although Erika had frequently visited her mother with her two older children, she had never seen or heard of any other children living with Erika. At Erika's workplace, where she sold handmade crafts and candles, co-workers recalled that she had abruptly quit just 2 weeks before the disturbing discoveries were made. Meanwhile, Raymond's co-workers described him as someone who often confided in them about personal problems, including issues with hygiene and finances at home. They also noted that Raymond would often retreat to the basement to tend to the marijuana plants he was cultivating and to use the drug. On the surface, Raymond appeared to maintain a pristine and professional image at work, often wearing dry-cleaned clothes and keeping a neat desk adorned with photographs of Erika and their two older children. One co-worker recalled a conversation with Raymond, where he admitted that despite the ongoing problems at home, he couldn't bring himself to leave Erika because he loved her and feared hurting her. As the full scope of the depravity at the Murray home became clear, the property was condemned and declared uninhabitable. The house, once a place that should have been a haven for a family, had become a nightmare, overrun by flies, rats, and feces, with piles of used diapers stacked almost 3 feet high. The home bore the stark, horrifying marks of years of neglect and cruelty. Hazardous materials teams worked diligently to decontaminate the property, dismantling carpets, tearing down contaminated walls, and demolishing shelves in a painstaking cleanup effort that cost over $25,000. The financial burden fell to Raymond's sister, the property's owner. Despite their fears of uncovering additional remains, investigators confirmed none were hidden before the house was ultimately demolished. The tragedy left an indelible mark on the community, sparking outrage and sorrow over how such horrific conditions had gone unnoticed for so long. In the aftermath, friends, neighbors, and relatives gathered for vigils at the site of the demolished home. They left an array of tributes, stuffed animals, balloons, and flowers, memorializing the innocent lives lost. As the community grappled with the horror, Erika Murray, then 31, faced her first court hearing in December 2014. She pleaded not guilty to all charges. Initially held without bail, the court later set bail at $1 million, a decision some deemed lenient given the case's gravity. The trial did not begin until June 2019, almost 5 years after the harrowing discovery. Throughout the proceedings, Erika displayed little emotion, except during the presentation of photographs depicting the remains of the infants. Her defense argued that the deceased infants might have been stillborn, suggesting their deaths were unrelated to Erika's actions. The prosecution countered, asserting that Erika's gross negligence and abandonment of her 5 youngest children led directly to the deaths of 3. They painted her as a mother who forced her children to endure unimaginable conditions, living amid heaps of trash, animal carcasses, soiled diapers, and filth. The evidence suggested at least one of the infants had been born alive and later died due to a lack of medical care. Witness testimonies provided a stark glimpse into the Murray home's horrifying state. Betsy Brown, the neighbor who first uncovered the truth, recounted finding baby handprints on walls, human waste smeared on surfaces, maggot-infested diapers, and the unbearable stench of decay. Recordings of Erika's police interrogations were also presented, during which she admitted that one of the infants had been born alive but died shortly after. The haunting details laid bare the full scope of neglect and tragedy that had unfolded behind the closed doors of the House of Horrors. Erika claimed she panicked and failed to call for help. Her defense attorneys argued that her mental health issues impaired her ability to grasp the severity of her actions. Forensic psychologists testified that Erika suffered from a personality disorder and had been emotionally abused by her partner, Raymond, over the years. They suggested she genuinely believed she was doing her best as a mother, despite the appalling living conditions her children endured. The defense pointed to Raymond's controlling behavior, emphasizing that he had strongly opposed having more children for financial reasons, but took no steps to prevent pregnancies, placing the entire burden on Erika. They also argued that untreated postpartum depression led her to hide her pregnancies and keep the infants a secret, fearing Raymond's reaction. Prosecutors dismissed these claims, asserting that Erika's actions stemmed from deliberate secrecy and deception, not fear or mental illness. They argued that she was fully aware of her choices and had numerous opportunities to seek help, but consciously decided against it. In the end, the judge found insufficient evidence to prove that all the infants had been born alive. While the death of one infant was deemed senseless and tragic, the prosecution failed to establish that Erika directly caused it. Consequently, she was acquitted of second-degree murder and 2 counts of reckless endangerment involving her older children, aged 13 and 10. However, Erika was found guilty of animal cruelty assault and battery related to the severe neglect of her 3-year-old and 5-month-old daughters. The judge acknowledged the extraordinary nature of the case, emphasizing that Erika's children were among the most vulnerable and defenseless victims. Despite the harrowing details, the court was constrained in imposing harsher penalties, taking Erika's mental health challenges into account. In July 2019, Erika Murray, then 36, was sentenced to 8 years in prison. Having already served nearly 5 years in custody, she was required to serve an additional 2 to 3 years before becoming eligible for parole. Her parole conditions included mandatory mental health treatment and a strict prohibition on contact with children under the age of 10 for 5 years. 3 months later, on October 29, 2019, Raymond Rivera, 42, reached a plea agreement with prosecutors. He pleaded guilty to several charges, including assault and battery on a child causing substantial injury, 2 counts of reckless endangerment of a child, 2 counts of animal cruelty, and possession with intent to distribute a Class D substance. Although his attorney had previously argued in 2016 that Raymond lacked custody of the 2 neglected children found in the home, prosecutors maintained that, as their father, he bore responsibility for their welfare. Raymond received a 3.5-year sentence for assault, with credit for time already served, and a concurrent 4-year sentence for reckless endangerment. Additionally, he was credited with 136 days and sentenced to 3 years of probation for the remaining charges. His probation terms included prohibiting unsupervised contact with children under 10, compliance with Department of Children and Families service plans, adherence to probate court orders, mandatory substance abuse evaluation, random drug testing, and mental health treatment. Raymond's lawyer stated that while his client had accepted more responsibility than necessary, Raymond wanted to resolve the case and move forward. By the conclusion of the investigation, Erika Murray had been released from prison. The couple's 2 oldest children, aged 13 and 10 during the events, were placed under the guardianship of Raymond's family. Meanwhile, the 2 younger daughters, who were found malnourished and living in squalid conditions, initially moved through several foster homes. The 3-year-old, referred to as Liza, reportedly made significant progress in her recovery. Conflicting accounts suggest that while some reports indicate the younger girls remain in foster care, others claim they are now living with their paternal grandparents and older siblings. The surviving children, now older, have been shielded from public scrutiny. Reports indicate they are receiving counseling and have been placed in stable, supportive environments. Advocates for child welfare have used the case to push for stronger systems to prevent similar tragedies, calling for more robust checks on families and greater awareness of signs of abuse and neglect. While Erika and Raymond may have served their sentences, the legacy of their actions is etched into the fabric of the town. Yet there is hope that the surviving children can rise above their difficult beginnings and find healing, offering a glimmer of redemption amid the darkness. Thank you for listening to True Crime Pulse. Share your thoughts on the story. Like and subscribe to the channel. Until the next episode, when we bring you more crime stories, stay vigilant.